everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report, Thursday's edition, pre-election special, and we're broadcasting from Southern California and Long Island, New York. Jeffrey, happy Thursday. Election is almost here.
Happy Thursday. And I got to tell you, Mark, I'm a little depressed.
Okay.
I almost went to the cops today because I learned last night I'm a really bad person.
Yeah, Hillary really insulted us all. 70 million Americans again.
Oh, I was talking about the president.
Oh, he was worse. Oh, my God. That was so bad. You know, I couldn't even watch. I literally had to turn the sound off. I couldn't watch. I actually turned the TV. I can't stand the guy when he's doing stupid stuff like this. I mean, he delivered an unhinged desperation speech.
Well, I have a thing on my phone that makes sound, so I kept doing it with a laugh track.
You know what? That's really appropriate for him. You know, it's an odd strategy, Jeffrey. I mean, when the American public are concerned about inflation, the economy, crime, the border, he comes out and starts blasting MAGA Republicans. I mean, who's his audience? Who's he speaking to there? Is he trying to shore up the Democrats? I can't figure it out. Well,
I think he's trying to get people to the polls.
Say again?
I think he's trying to get people to the polls.
Maybe that's the only thing I could think of, because sitting there banging on Republicans, and you know, at the same time we were joking about Hillary, she delivered one of her basket of deplorables 2 speeches where she said the consequences of voting for Republicans. I mean, even Biden didn't go that far. I mean, well, he did. He went actually worse, calling it. It's between Biden and Hillary. Jeffrey, I don't know what's worse.
Oh, well, I don't know, because at least Hillary's not in office.
Yeah, that's true, too. That would be frightening.
You know, that would really scare me.
Yeah, because at least she has a brain and she can think for herself. I may disagree
but I think
with
we
her.
should call him, you know, with the MAGA, with all those things he says, we can call him the solidly senile statecraft screw-up.
You know, I'm not going to be shocked at that. But again, look at what you got here, Jeffrey. You got an 80-year-old president. You got 2 aging liberal losers. You can't call Biden a loser because he won the presidency, but he's leading his party towards losses in the midterms. Hillary's already a 2-time loser. You know, I think this is going to come back to haunt the Democrats if it's not already. As the metrics are showing, Jeffrey, every indication are that a red wave is building. Now, will it get there fast enough or will it crash? I don't know. But right now, that red wave is building and these Democrats are in a panic mode.
If you remember, I think it was 8 years ago where they kept saying the Republicans don't have a bench.
Right. They did.
Well, but they didn't then. They do now. But the Democrats, everybody's over 90.
Yeah, they really are. And I'm going to tell you something. When you talk about a bench, if you look at our candidates, particularly some of the Republican women, man, whoever selected these candidates did a nice job, because not only are they're on message, but man, I got to tell you, we got some, you know, we have some very attractive, sharp, you know, they punch back against Democrats, and it's such a pleasant sight to see. And I'm not, and it goes across all races, all ethnic backgrounds. I mean, our candidates, we have some really, really good candidates, and they're all different ages. Some are really young, and some are middle-aged, and some are older. But I got to tell you something. I am really happy with how Republicans have fought back against these crazy Democratic attacks.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about DeSantis. He really gives hell back.
Well, as do a lot of them. I mean, God, sure. I could Tiffany Smiley up in Washington State running for Senate, Carrie Lake. I mean, I could go on and on. We've got a lot, particularly some of our women candidates. They are sharp as a tack. Yep. And, you know, you put them up against those Democratic candidates, and it's just like old and no ideas.
Mark, we don't have anybody like Elizabeth Warren.
Oh my God, thank God we don't.
Thank God. But no, we have some really strong women.
We really do. But I mean, you look at someone like Patty Murray's been in the Senate for 5 terms. You know, Washington, elect a new senator, bring some fresh blood into the Senate from your state. I hope she wins because she's a really terrific candidate.
Well, the other thing is that, you know, I don't know if I could believe in term limits or I don't because I change my mind all the time. But she's been in office too long.
30 years she's been in the Senate, Patty Murray. So
But my thing about
now, look, we've had a
term
lot.
limits
I can't. I don't want to be. I don't. Yeah. Well, I got to be careful here. I don't want to be a hypocrite because we've got a few Republicans on the ballot that have been in the Senate for a while too. And I'll start.
yeah.
I'll start. Oh well, let me sort of finish. I'll start with Charles Grassley in Iowa. I mean, old chunky boy, he's 86 and he's running for about his 7th term. I don't know. He's been there a while.
The problem with term limits is it takes the decision away from the voters.
Yeah, I don't like that. I've never been a proponent of term limits. I don't believe in them. I think you should be able to run if you want to run. Look, we've got some octogenarians in the Senate, and I'm hopefully Charles Grassley gets reelected. He's favored to do so. Let me talk to you about some really tight races, though. My goodness. General Don Bullock up in New Hampshire, they had the debate last night. Some crazy lunatic tried to attack him, and he wasn't affected by it. The suspect was arrested, but Bullock did great in that debate last night. Right. And in polling released today, he's +1 on Maggie Hassan. That's another one. I mean, she needs to be defeated. And we've got a decorated general, Purple Heart guy. I mean, I cannot think of a better person to represent New Hampshire. And what a solid, fresh face for the Republicans.
I think it's interesting that what protected him is all his supporters surrounded him.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? Yeah.
But yeah, and that's another example of why we need more help in the crime area.
Yeah, no question. I mean, look, Democrats don't think the crime's a big issue. Some of them say, "Oh, you're playing the race card." No, we're not. This crime is out of control. And you look at what's happened among candidates, and I'll even throw the speaker thing in there. You had Lee Zeldin, victim of crime. You had Don Bullock last night. You had the thing with Pelosi. I mean, Rand Paul a couple years ago. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, listen, this threat against our politicians on both sides is horrific. And that's just on the political side. And then oh God, I could go on and on with these stories. But
they were going after the Supreme Court justices.
Yeah,
after the abortion decision.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, that's just the political side of the crime. The real crime where people were affected by the murders, the rapes, all this, and the drug dealers and letting them out of jail and no bail. People, I'm going to tell you something. These suburban women that are going to vote for Republicans, Democrats are going to get a rude lesson in awakening here from these soccer moms about how security, they value and they do care about pocketbook issues. I thought it was interesting.
An example where somebody was let out on bail. Well, he beat up his girlfriend. They let him right out on bail, and a day later he killed his girlfriend.
Yeah, I know. It's really bad. I thought Bullock did great in the debate last night when the monitor asked about the inflation issue, and he said talked about the price of eggs, and Hassan said something about, well, yeah, my husband went to shop. He couldn't believe the price. And Bullock says, yeah, you're partially responsible for voting for these crazy spending bills. What
I think is amazing is he did it after almost getting into a fight.
Right.
I would be too shooken up to be able to give a good answer.
No, he did great last night. And I really hope New Hampshire comes up. And I mean, we're going to know pretty early how well he's doing. Again, it's a tough race for him, but
2 weeks ago, nobody knew it was tight.
Right, exactly. Now it is getting tight, and so I think we've got a shot up there. I'm really optimistic that could happen. Let's talk Pennsylvania. Everybody's talking about it. Oz is now up 1. Jeffrey, it looks, Oz is up 1 point in one poll, 2 points in another. 7% of the people in Pennsylvania said that debate changed their mind. Do you think it's enough to get Oz over the top and retain that seat in Pennsylvania?
I hope it does, because I think Pennsylvania is one of the important ones.
There's no question it's important. That's a seat we have to retain. Right. We have a retiring Republican senator there, and that's really important that we retain.
But I've been watching the interviews. Some people say, yeah, because he it's not that I don't like him. I don't think he can do the job because of his illness. And others are saying, well, that's nonsense.
Well, a lot of people on the Democratic side just want him. And he even says it. Look, he says, I'm the 51st vote. Well, You know what? The guy can barely speak. I don't know. We've talked about it ad nauseum.
I feel bad for him, but
I do too. Yeah.
politics aside, the Senate is an organization where you're supposed to debate. And if the guy can't talk well, he can't debate.
Right.
And he can't do the job of a senator.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Yep. No question about it. But I'm really between Bulldog in New Hampshire and Oz in Pennsylvania. Boy, I hope we can win them both. I really think we got a shot winning both of them. You know, it would be great because on two fronts, John Fetterman doesn't belong in the Senate, as you're saying, and Dr. Oz would represent Pennsylvania. Plus, he'd be the first Muslim American senator. I think so. So, yeah, that'd be a good thing. There's a shocking poll out, Jeffrey, and it's out west in Colorado. I didn't think there was any chance we could take Colorado. I still think it's a long shot, but Michael Bennett's only up 2 points there. Jeffrey, if Bennett's only up 2 in Colorado,
right?
Does that mean we got a red wave building?
Well, if he wins it, we do.
No question.
Everything's closing the gap.
Yeah,
and even in typically red states.
You mean blue states?
I mean, typically blue states, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting because Biden, as bad as he is, you know, the oddball places he's going to campaign. I mean, he's going to be out in California, I think today. No, he was going to be he was campaigning first in New Mexico for the governor's race there. That's a solidly blue state, but apparently that governor's in trouble. Then he's going to be coming in California, the bluest of the blue, campaigning for a couple congressional seats. He's going to Illinois, another blue state.
But they want him to be able to campaign. And if they're going to let him campaign, they're going to let him campaign in states they can't lose, or they probably won't lose.
Or in blue states where the races have tightened up. I don't know. I think they're trying to hide him, just keep him away from any competitive race.
That's what I mean. You know, but in my state, we got Obama's coming, or he's been here. Hillary lives here. We had Bubba here.
Yeah.
And who else? Kamala's coming. I mean, it's the Democratic superstar state. And you know what? Lee Zeldin is closing. I think at one poll he was up a point.
Yeah, and that would be so poetic if Lee could pull that off in New York. I mean, against all odds, I'm really pulling for him, and I know you are too, because he's a decent guy and he'll be a good governor up there.
And unlike our last Republican governor, he doesn't have a comb over.
A comb over.
Pataki was a good governor, but that comb over made me sick.
In another tight race, Ron Johnson up by a couple over Mandela Barnes. You think he pulls out Wisconsin?
I hope so. I don't understand why it's so close.
Yeah, me too.
He's a good senator.
Yeah, he's a really good senator. You know, there's a lot of liberal ties in Wisconsin, but again, Johnson's won 2 races for Senate there, and both of them have been relatively close. So I'm hoping he pulls it out there.
And you know what else is getting close? Something you've been talking about for a while. Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona. Blake Masters got the benefit of the third-party candidate dropping out who endorsed Blake Masters.
Right.
Look, there's couple big issues down there. You know, the border people in Arizona are tired of it. I mean, everybody hears about Texas. Arizona is the number 2 state on that. And then
their senator's like a space cadet.
Yeah, he's bad. Yeah. And he tries to distance it. What kills me is, Jeffrey, is all these Democrats try to distance themselves from Biden, and yet they vote with him 98, 99% of the time. I mean,
they only try to distance him for like the last month.
Right. Exactly right. When they were trying to pass legislation, they give him a hug. Now that it's election time, no one wants to be with him. Look, we're still up in that generic ballot. That's a good thing. Up 2.5 points in that thing. So I think here's a key thing. We've mentioned suburban women voters. We've mentioned the fact Hispanics are shifting to the GOP. I've seen reports where it's potentially 15 to 20% of the African American vote. I'll tell you another thing, and this is a really key piece for me. Only 17% of voters, Jeffrey, feel the country's moving in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Who's those 17%? I mean, obviously there's a fringe group out there, but that,
Well, the people who had their newspaper subscriptions canceled.
or the ones that don't want to pay the $8 fee to Elon Musk for Twitter.
Well, but it's not for Twitter. It's only to have the blue check mark.
Yeah.
For the rest of us, it's free. And I actually was offered the blue check mark a couple of years ago, and I said, no, thank you. And it was free.
What's the difference between the check mark and the free one? Any difference?
Yeah, you look more important.
If you get the check mark.
That's it.
Hey, what did you think, Jeffrey? This blew my mind when I saw it. It told me how out of touch the Biden administration is. When they actually they put out a tweet saying that the White House is taking credit for the increase in Social Security benefits. Now, little did they know and Biden even bragged about it on a campaign stop in Fort Lauderdale and in Hallandale Beach. But the problem with it is that the increase in benefits is tied to inflation.
Right.
What staffer in the White House? Somebody has to clear this stuff up, I would think. But they quickly
took it. It's last week, okay? He's made, mistake after most mistake. He did that thing where Bo died in Iraq again.
Yeah.
He did, what else did he do? Said that Trump, when he left office, gas cost $5.
Yeah, I know. It was around
$2.21.
Yeah.
Following it. Things like that. He's all in the same week. So
yeah.
I don't know if he's making mistakes or, I still say he's getting senile.
I think he's getting senile. It doesn't make any sense to me what's happening with him. But again, I think it's all going to get rectified. I mean, when you go out there and brag about Social Security benefits going up and they're tied to inflation, I mean, you're really lost in space. But at least, I mean, it wasn't just the tweet. It was the fact he talked about it down in Florida. Look,
and that they're blaming, in two cases, they're blaming one Republican for the whole party. They're blaming Scott.
Yeah.
For the Republicans are going to screw inflation and screw Medicare.
Yeah, right.
They're blaming. What's his name? Why can't I remember?
You talking about Rick Scott?
No, I'm talking about McCain's best friend there.
Oh, Donald Trump?
No, Lindsey Graham.
Oh, Lindsey Graham.
He said that we should have a bill outlawing abortion throughout the country.
Yeah, no, that didn't go anywhere. That was like a.
But they're saying that because
I know.
And McConnell said no.
No, we're not going to do that.
One guy.
No, that's not going to happen. What do you make of Musk? Reports are he's going to lay off half of Twitter's workforce back on Twitter again, 3,500 people.
You can't go by me. I use Twitter, but I hate it. I've been shadow banned. I've had to watch what I said. I have friends that were thrown off because they reposted the post story about Hunter. I think one of the good things is the fact that Biden had to remove that tweet. It might show it's starting to make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if they took out all of Biden's lies, Twitter would be empty.
Yeah, it would be, no question about it. Hey, I want to cover some economic news and I want to get to some foreign news here. Look, the Federal Reserve raised rates 75 basis points yesterday. Absolutely no surprise. You and I talked about that.
Yeah, but did you notice that a lot of people were freaking out about it? Like, who didn't know it was going to be 75 basis points?
Well, what they were freaking out about was that the Fed, it basically, to the surprise of some traders, said, no, we are going to continue raising rates. We're going to keep rates higher for longer. Powell's serious about beating inflation. Apparently, some of these traders didn't buy it. But anyhow, the stock market, it sold off after there, and it's down a little bit today. But the key piece is another 50 basis point increase is expected in December, and then they will likely do maybe another 25 or 2 there. But they're going to get that terminal rate up between 4.5%, 4.75% in an effort to tame inflation. Jeffrey, a lot of people are saying 2023 is going to be a tough year, but they're taking it out on Democrats because people are feeling the pain in 2022 with these high gas prices, food prices, rent prices, you name it. I think that's going to be the major factor in the elections.
Yes, but the overprinting of money started with Obama, went through Trump,
Yep. Yep.
and now Biden. So you can't just blame Biden for that part.
No, that's true. It started well before
But
him.
the gas stuff, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's clearly horrific energy policies that are doing that. All right, look, I want to get to something that you're an expert on, which is Israeli politics. Now, a lot of Americans have an affinity for Benjamin Netanyahu. He has spoke before Congress. Donald Trump invited him to speak before Congress when there was a Democratic Congress. I mean,
There are two prime ministers in Israeli history that has loved more in the United States than in Israel: Netanyahu and Golda Meir.
Golda Meir, right? Mm-hmm. Why don't you? It's a little confusing, but Netanyahu has put together a coalition. It's already being labeled, oh, it's a far right wing, the farthest right wing, and the media is already attacking him. But walk our viewers and listeners through, what it took for Netanyahu to win, how he won, and what happens from here.
Well, first of all, in Israel, they don't vote for people. They vote for parties.
Right.
So every party that gets at least 3.25% of the vote, they get Knesset seats, which is their parliament. The last three elections before this one, let me start with no Israeli prime minister has ever gotten 60 seats. There are 120 seats in the parliament. You need 61.
So you have to put together a coalition.
Coalition of 61.
Right.
But the last three were 60-60, and no one wanted to budge.
Okay.
A lot of the other people leading the other parties used to work for Netanyahu, and they hate him.
Wow. Interesting.
Okay. And I'm not commenting for political reasons. I'm just giving the story. Okay. So before the election, they try to see who's going to like them and who they can count on. Okay. And this one, a big surprise. I mean, a week before the election, I was thinking it was going to be 60-60 again. The day after the election, I was saying maybe him, but there was an Arab party that was like at 3.21, and didn't make the 3.5 floor. So I said, well, if they get up to 3.5, then it's going to be 60-60 again. But now that it's 64-50, okay, they still have to do the horse trading, because why they said I'll be in your block, but they got to agree on who gets what site, what spot, and things like that. What legislation they're going to pass. I know the Orthodox Jewish parties, they want things that they can't have, like the defense portfolio. They have no experience in defense, so that's going to have to be a problem. Okay, but he's going to have to make the coalition happen. He's going to have to get everybody together.
Well, let me ask you this: why is the media referring to his big win as a right-wing coalition forms, and Likud being a far right-wing party?
Well, actually, Israel is center-right.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
But right-wing there doesn't mean the same as right-wing here. It's not based on big government, small government economic policy. Although, out of anybody who ran, Netanyahu was the best at economic policy.
Okay.
In fact, a matter of fact, when he was finance minister, which is the same as our treasury secretary, he brought in and created the technical industry into Israel. And that's one of the biggest
industries. Oh, yeah. That's okay. A big deal. That's a very big deal.
Right? But when they say far right, they're talking about what they have to do to make peace. I mean, Bibi says it's the first thing you have to do is recognize Israel as a Jewish state.
Right. It seems like a reasonable request.
Yeah, but the Palestinians won't do it. The left wing says, let's make peace at any cost. Okay, but they consider that far right.
Yeah.
The religious groups are the heaviest right because they don't think that the Arabs should get any rights.
Right. Understood. Well, let me ask you one other question. And this is the one thing. How is it possible to have 5 elections in 3 years?
Because they didn't get 61.
Okay, that's what it was.
That's it. And I was thinking that would be 6 elections in 4 years. But then you got to look at how it's going to affect the United States.
Yeah, that was my final question. Yeah.
Because with a Democratic president, when you look at it, they're not going to like Bibi. Obama hated Bibi.
Right. Yeah. And Biden's
Trump
no
was
friend
friends
of it.
with Bibi for 30 years. Okay. And they're gonna do anything they can to mess up. And matter of fact, Biden is already trying to make it that Israel doesn't really own Jerusalem. He started funding Palestinian building in Jerusalem, so the Jews won't have the majority population anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, well, you know what? I mean, that's typical of left wing administration, what we've got here. So,
I did a population thing from I think it was 1886 till now. And in 1886, the Jews were the majority, the Catholics were number two. And eventually the Muslim, they passed the Catholics, but it was still the Jews, the majority. But nobody cares about that.
well, I got to tell you something. As an American, am happy Netanyahu is there. I've always liked him, and I hope he has a good relationship, with the upcoming Republican Senate. Jeffrey, a minute left. Give me your House and Senate predictions because I won't be talking to you until after the election now.
The Republicans have definitely taken the House, and probably more than we've been saying.
Yeah, I've been around 20. What's your House number?
I think it's going to be closer to 25 or 30.
Okay, I hope you're right. And in the Senate,
Man, I don't know. I know what I want to say, but I want to say that the Republicans are going to take the Senate too. But I'm just not confident. I mean, I'm not a believer in polls.
yeah, understood.
If I look at polls, it seems like the Republicans have a real chance of taking the Senate. But I still remember the 2016 election.
Yep.
Where I was broadcasting, and all day I thought Hillary was going to win. And when I was all done, I went into my bedroom, and my wife said, "Who won?" I said, "Trump." She goes, "Oh, don't bullshit me." Because the poll said he wasn't going to win.
Well, I mean, so you're basically saying 25 seats in the House, and you're hoping for a Republican win in the Senate, but you're not willing to give a prediction.
I think it's closer than a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, all right, I'll buy that. A lot of people are talking how it's going to be. My prediction is this: I think on election night, we end up with 50 Senate seats, and there'll be some. I think we'll eventually win the runoff in Georgia. I think Pennsylvania may not even have a winner on election night because of a lot of the absentee ballots coming in. It may take a couple of days. I think at the end of the day, by the time all the votes are counted, we're either 51-49 or 52-48 Republican control.
I told you what my desire is, right? That the Republicans take the Senate, and I get to tell Chucky.
This race is tighter than they thought. Well, again, optimistically, some people are saying it could be 54-55. I hope they're right. And if it's a big wave, let me put it this way: if Michael Bennet is really only up 2 in Colorado, and if Tiffany Smiley's only down 1 in Washington, and Dalton Bullock's up by 1 in New Hampshire, you could be looking at a wave. I'll hope so. Well, we'll talk about it next Thursday.
Have you spoken to Mitch?
Not lately, but
because he'd give you a good prediction.
Yeah, he's rather cautious, but I think he is optimistic from some things I've talked to some of the people that work for him. They're optimistic we're going to win the Senate. I think he'll be Senate Majority Leader come January 3rd.
Do you think he's going to have a big fight with Trump to stay in office?
No, absolutely not. I don't think Trump's going to be relevant anything to do with elections in the House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, and with Mitch McConnell. There may be a few people grumble about it, but come January 3rd, Mitch McConnell will be Senate Majority Leader, and Kevin McCarthy will be House Speaker of the House. So, Jeffrey, let's pull for a great win on election night. Thank you again for your insight. And look, we've been doing this a long time. Hopefully we can celebrate when we talk next week.
Absolutely. You take care of yourself, Mark.
All right, I will. And I'll be back in studio on Monday, folks. My apologies, but I've been recovering from an eye injury, and I've had some things to deal with that. So back in the studio on Monday, we'll be giving you the pre-election, final election pre-results. I'll give you my forecast, final forecast Monday, and then we'll be discussing results Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thanks for staying with us. Have a great weekend coming up. Make sure you vote, and we'll see you on Monday.